After Hours.
On this episode of the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, we discuss the metalcore band from Santa Cruz, California, known as Arsonists. Get all the girls. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurviveByPro for news and the latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show. Leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta, army surrounded.
Welcome back to the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, where each and every episode, I, Curtis, sit down with my good friend and avid fire maker and listener to the History of the Corps podcast, Erik. What's going on, Firebug?
Trying to warm up this microphone for you.
This episode is all about fire.
That was the Anthony Green special.
I was telling somebody about that not so long ago. I don't know who it was or why that even came up. And just like you tell me about seeing him and him doing all that stuff, it's like, I don't think he's past the cocaine.
There's something.
There's something going on there, man. Not really sure what, but he's trying to spread it to other people too, man.
Yeah, there's something out there.
There's something. He's not all there, but well, Erik, let's just dive on into this band today, man. No pleasantries before. Let's just get on into it. We'll be talking about the band
style of death metal.
There you go.
No pleasantries.
Get in, get out, man. Yeah, no pleasantries. Today we are talking about the band known as Arsonist. Get all the girls. Now, normally, Erik, I like to start out an episode with 2 general questions, and we're going to get there. But I really wanted to ask you another, dare I say, burning question. Ooh, puns galore. We're just starting, so this is going to be a long episode full of puns, I'm sure. But Erik, in your 31 years on this wonderful earth, have you learned the answer as to why arsonists get all the girls?
I have yet to learn that, but I hear, according to some of the big stars, you need to ask people out in California right now.
Oh man. I did not see that one coming. We are
Age restricted.
We're so done. Well, this was a great podcast. We are finally canceled. All right, that's great. It was always my goal to get canceled. Yeah. All right, now to the general questions. As always, Erik, I like to ask how you were introduced to the band known as Arsonists Get All the Girls.
I've known about this one for roughly forever. I know you and Josh and others have talked about them a lot. I can't say that I've ever sat down and listened to them, though. I don't know if I just never gave them a chance or if, the docket's full. Already got enough right now.
Just one of those that were just kind of at arm's length. Yeah,
right.
It's kind of how it was.
On the outside.
Right. It's periphery is what it is. So, speaking of which, I thought of that this morning. I saw a video. I guess I don't know. It could have been a TikTok, but it was on YouTube Shorts. Stuff. Anyway, they were talking about. Somebody said something about name a word that you mispronounced the first time, whatever. And so it was just like a chain of people mispronouncing words. And all I could think of the whole time was me, periphery. I was like, oh, at least I don't feel as bad watching this now. But anyway. Okay, so now you've listened to their short, how many was it? Is it 5? Yeah, 5 full-length albums. from Arsonists Got All the Girls in their discography. How would you describe Arsonist to a brand new listener?
Oh, like I like to do this with broad brushstrokes, but uh, kind of going back to what we talked about with the Iwabo back in the day, get you a little party metal in there.
Party core, yeah.
Yeah,
Get your
kind of in
party
that
hat on.
little vein. Yeah, a little bit. Death metal is kind of where their main sound, I would say, kind of lies. And then in spot songs, album, they're kind of metalcore-ish. And then honestly, there's a time, I don't know if it's just the vocals for me, but it slips right into old school, like West Coast hardcore kind of sound to me.
Yeah, is it that middle couple albums, the Portals and Motherland, where they switch up
It's
the vocalist?
actually the end when he comes back.
Oh, when Remy comes back on
Yeah,
the one right behind me.
yeah,
Listen to the
that one.
color. Okay, okay. I could kind of see that for sure. And he's got there's a like very interesting vocal styles um throughout there. Because if you really think about it, there's about four today. There'd be four vocalists that appear at least. Remy Rodberg, Sean Richmond, who does more of a backing vocal thing in the middle of their discography. You got Jared, who does Portals and Motherland. That's the one that I was kind of like, okay, his vocals. And I told Josh, it's like, he makes me think of somebody. And I think I kind of was leaning more towards, oh, dang it. I had his name and then I lost it from A Life Once Lost. Robert Meadows, kind of a little bit of a bite, but not that bitey. And then you had Cameron Reed was the other guy. So a lot of different kind of. I always felt like Remy's was the most interesting one. He's the one that you'll hear on Listen to the Color that you're kind of talking about. It's almost like this kind of crazy high. I don't know. It makes you think of like a mental patient type thing. I don't know. But then his lows and his gutturals are just like so like, oh, so good, man. You know. But
Yep.
yeah. Alrighty, well, let's dive on into this discography here, Eric. Constant lineup changes is a main part of this band's history. They begin with 8 members. That's right, 8 members, 4 guitarists. That's right, 4 guitarists. Why? Are we esocharists? Is that who we are now? Before quickly trimming down to a manageable 6-piece band, 2 vocalists, 2 keyboardists, which, yeah, and releasing their debut album Hits from the Bow, and boy, oh boy, does it hit. Constantly keeping the listener guessing what could be coming around the corner, the band releases raw fisticuffs in musical form, with songs like This Time, You're Gonna Get It Dirty, Shirley, Scobra versus Cupcake, Battle of the Bulge, Shat, Shark, Tart, and Zombies Ate My Neighbor. Wasting no time, the band would record a follow-up album entitled The Game of Life, which showcases the band tightening up production-wise, but still coming straight at the listener with their patented, chaotic, unrelenting madness that will leave the listener
Ooh.
wondering, do I really know about the game of life? Eric, give me your thoughts on the band's first 2 albums.
I'd say both are pretty decent. They are both raw and chaotic. Highs, I would say, are of the period. I don't know a better way to put that. Like you were kind of saying earlier, his style of highs are mental patient esque.
It's very unique. I mean, it stands out for
Yeah,
sure.
it does stand out even within that era, but it is of the
Right. But
era.
it still is out there.
That kind
Yeah,
of
I was going to agree
style
with
of
that.
the,
Right.
I don't know, that who can do it the gnarliest, that kind of style.
Right.
That's what those highs make me think of. Um, Overall, it musically kind of reminds me of the space of Bring Me, not musically, but like the lows, I think. It's Bring Me the Horizon.
Those gutturals. Yeah. I could see
Yeah.
that.
And then Job for a Cowboy, how they kind of jump from lows to highs to lows to highs. I kind of get the feeling from both of those on that. And that's
Right.
old Bring Me the Horizon, by the way. That's Count Your
Yeah,
Blessings. That's what we're talking
we're not talking about this
about.
new
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Just to make that
Ugh.
abundantly clear, we're talking about
Mm.
when they were both doing kind of the same sound.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
don't get me wrong. Like, I
Tough.
enjoyed like those early days of Bring Me the Horizon, but I am not looking forward to doing the latter half of Bring Me the Horizon when we get to that episode eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's just from what I've listened to, it's just like, I don't like it. Just me. Just me.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Do you have anything else for those
Uh,
two albums?
I was going to say it could possibly use a bit of cleanup in post production, maybe, but the rawness does add to its charm, being a kind of
Yeah,
a
I was gonna
figured
say,
out kind of era.
yeah,
So
and I feel like it kind of lends to, I mean, they're blending a lot of genres. You mentioned it, and then me and Josh talked about it in the original episode too, with some of the reviewers and such. There's a lot going on there, especially in those first two albums. But I feel like leaving it a little raw like that, with coupled with the vocal style, the just kind of the weirdness in their music too, really kind of adds another layer of depth for who they are. So,
right. Just as far as if you were to say stack it up against something today, if you cleaned it up a little bit in post production, I think it would stack up against most modern, whatever you want to call this kind of metal. You know, it's not like
avant-garde.
it is avant garde. It definitely is, but it's not like it's way in the past and we need to leave it there. This is
Right.
it's a different, and I think for the age they were ahead of their time. They're riding that wave out for sure.
Hey, Ride the Wave. It's a song.
Woo-hoo!
After the release of their sophomore album, major changes would occur as both vocalist keyboardist Cameron Reed and Remy Rotberg would depart the band, opening the door for a brand new era in Arsonist history, as the band would bring in Jared Monette as the new frontman, while also adding Sean Richmond on keys and backing vocals, thus leading to their next album, 2009's Portals, which sees the band shift to a more structured style, unlike previous two albums that mashed up several genres from song to song. Portals feature songs such as The 40-Second Ego, My Cup's Half Empty, Violence in Fluid Triceratops, and In the Empyreans, the latter being dedicated to their former bassist Patrick Mason, who passed away tragically from alcohol poisoning several years before, and would actually feature former vocalist Remy Rodberg. Which, thinking about that later on, I wondered, him being so fresh off of just like leaving the band, and then that song being kind of a dedication to their former bassist. I kind of wonder if he came back to kind of like give it a like a homage, like I played with him, you guys didn't or whatever. I just kind of a thought, but anyway. Soon after that release, this new lineup would record and release 2011's Motherland, an album that still follows the more structured sound of Portals, while being described by Josh as having some elements that could be heard on their next album, Listen to the Color. Give me your thoughts, Eric, on the Jared Monette era of Arsonists, Get All the Girls.
So Portals, you got less of those weird sound bites overall. Uh, I was trying to figure out what was different about the keys, and I come up with the idea they're kind of sprinkled in rather than jammed in. Like
Hmm.
before, they're just kind of jammed here, jammed there, jammed there,
More
and
strategic.
a little more strategic. Um, Kind of makes me think of Between the Buried and Me a little bit at this
Okay.
point, especially in the kind of musical section. It's just kind of that sound, avant-garde,
Yeah.
very avant-garde.
Yeah. Well, I was about to
Motherland,
say, I meant to say it earlier, and I think Josh had mentioned when we were talking about Between the Married and Me, kind of towards the end, where I think we were getting to like Colors too, and just kind of talking about some of that weirdness that kind of like pops up in their songs. And I think he said it kind of made him think of some of the things that would show up on Arsonists to All the Girls. So I started kind of thinking, I
right?
mean, they're kind of in the same genre a little bit different, but I think some of that weirdness too does kind of flow between the two
Right. They're
bands
both
there.
kind of weird. They're both pushing boundaries,
Right,
both mixing all sorts of different elements from different categories and
right,
musical, influences and everything else. So
right,
definitely could be kind of both in the same vein, I guess you say.
right,
But Motherland is even less chaotic. I would definitely say more intentional sounding. I think you put it as more structured. It feels like you could hear a little bit of what was to come. I think Josh had put it that way too. And overall, they're both pretty similar to one another. There's a growth. There's not. It's not static, sitting there doing nothing. But
right,
uh, as a band, you grow and you move and you shift and all that good stuff. And you can feel that with these two. But they're similar enough that you kind of put them in that same category of this is an era for sure. But less overall, the whole era itself was less chaotic, more intentional sounding, and less random weirdness, including the keys and other things like that.
right. I with this
It's
one,
not as
like I
random. They're
take
still weird,
right,
but it's not random as it felt before.
right. I feel like with these first four albums, um, with this band, I always kind of look at the album artwork, like for Game of Life and even Hits from the Bow, especially like the re-release one. They're very kind of like it's very raw and kind of chaotic looking, and so I feel like it matches with the music. When we get to
Right.
Portals and Motherland, Portals still has a little bit of a feel of okay, I could see the old, Remy Rodberg and Cameron Reed era arsonist doing an album artwork like that because it's kind of crazy, it's kind of creepy, it's a little trippy. But I feel like looking at Portals and Motherland with the way the name spelled and just kind of the artwork of it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this feels like it kind of reflects more of a production structured, kind of like what I was saying earlier about it being more structured. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
really want to say it's going mainstream because I don't think they were going mainstream, but it does feel like they are tightening up more. And I do think it reflects with the music and the vocal style and such. But then I think when you get to listen to the color, you get the best of both worlds there. You get the crazy album artwork with the trippy stuff. You're looking at it and going, "What am I looking at right now?" But then at the same time, you do get kind of a still a little bit of a raw sound to it from the old days, but it does still feel more structured than listening to like it hits from the bow. So I think by that time, when you get to listen to the color, you get a good blend of everything together there. So, speaking of
Yep.
listen to the color, a return to their roots would occur in 2013 as former vocalist Remy Rodberg would return to help the band release on their own terms, that is, self released, Listen to the Color. A quick 29-minute listen full of nostalgia for fans of previous releases, Hits from the Bow and the Game of Life. The band turns back the clock with getting back to basics with their genre hopping music with songs like When I Was Your Age, Pluto Was Still a Planet, MK Ultra, MK Delta, Disease, Test the Best, Ride the Wave, and Watchers. What feels like a possible final album would be followed by several years of touring, a hiatus, a return, another hiatus, and once again a return. But now in 2024, the lineup is completely different, as the only recognizable names left in the band are founding vocalist Cameron Reed and keyboardist Sean Richmond. So, Eric, tell me what you think of the band's DIY album, Listen to the Color. And with the overhaul in lineup changes over the past decade, does this band still have a future, or should they leave the Arsonist legacy behind?
I think the best part about Listen to the Colors is when it ended.
What? He didn't like
I
it?
didn't love this album, honestly. It
Whoa.
slipped into that kind of raw end of the hardcore right there.
Okay.
With those screechy vocals and some group vocals and stuff going on and stuff like that. It just slipped out of what I was expecting, and just didn't hit as well for me.
Okay.
And the screechy vocals in general are not my favorite sound. And it felt like they lost a lot of the lows throughout this album comparatively to Hits from the Bow and Game of Life, where you got both back and forth, low, high. And it just felt like we were sticking closer to the highs more often and more often.
Okay.
And it's not my favorite sound.
And I wonder if it's because of that, it's just Remy. And, you still got Sean in there at that time, but again, it's doing more backing vocal type stuff, I guess. And so Remy would probably take more of a front seat, whereas it felt back in the early days with Game of Life and Hits from the Bow, it felt more of a dual vocal style between him and Cameron
Right.
Reed. Man, I can hear Josh just screaming, "What?" No, because this is his favorite album, man. So
It's just that vocal style just doesn't do it for me. That's it
I
right
understand.
there.
Yeah. To each
I mean,
their
it's a
own.
good album. It's pretty tight as a whole. It's not like it's weird and all over the place. It's just not my favorite flavor.
Yeah.
You like pistachio ice cream? That's fine. It's just not for me.
Right. We always talk about, bands working their way towards doing their own thing, the DIY method, the self-release, And I agree with Josh. I think that may because I do enjoy Listen to the Color. It's probably one of my favorites from Arsonist. Game of Life is still the classic. Listen to the Color though is a tight second. But I do agree with Josh. I do think the DIY of it being self-released did give it another dimension to it. But Listen to the Color behind again with the overall lineup changes. Now you're just
Right.
kind of down to your founding member of Cameron Reed, and then Sean Richmond, who's there in the middle, and he's kind of sticking around. But everybody else is totally different. And up until that point where you had this big overhaul, your guitars and your drummer, your guitar and your drummer was your mainstay throughout the entire discography. So, I mean, you and I have talked about, well, all three of us talked about, how far can you get away, or how much can you get away with, some of these member changes? We all three of us agree vocalist is the hardest thing to do. But I think in this case, I just kind of wonder with the guitarist and the drummer who are the mainstays throughout the discography, how much is that really gonna change it? Even though you do have this, two vocalists who were there for together the entire discography. But what do you think about their future?
It is hard to tell with that revolving door. Um, you can definitely tell the sound is changing. It's been a decade since the last album released, or
Right.
more at this point. So who knows if they're gonna move forward and make anything else? But I don't know if they release something tomorrow. I have no idea what vein it would even be in.
Right.
Would it go more towards, because it seems like they were slipping more towards the hardcore, just as every album, even in the part in the middle there where we jumped into the other main vocalist, there was more group vocals. It felt like, I mean, there was always some group vocals,
Right.
but it felt like that middle section just had more of them. I didn't sit down and count them all. Sorry. I know people have analytics, but I got a life. I do listen to music a lot, but I'm doing stuff.
Right.
But these, like I said, it just kind of, as time goes on, I don't know if they're just slipping into that hardcore sound. And so the next one would just be a straight up hardcore record. I don't know. So it's hard to say as far as where their legacy was, or will be. So especially with that revolving door, that makes it really hard.
It's like a wound you can't heal,
yeah,
man.
You lost a couple of your mainstays. Like we've talked about Silverstein before. Go check that episode out. They lost their guitarist and they moved on to another guy. And that album directly after was similar enough. But after that, you could definitely feel his style is different. It got kind of, again, moving more towards that hardcore. That's what got me thinking this way. They went from that, very defined post-hardcore space to more of a hardcore sound. And vocals kind of followed, drums kind of followed. And that guitar is such a big piece of their sound.
Driving force, yeah.
A guitar-driven band, a guitar-driven genre for that matter, you lose it, you move it around. Yeah, it could change your sound a lot. Who knows? As far as Arsonists get all the girls. Who knows where they're going to stand?
Yeah,
hard to tell.
We shall see. I do think it is pretty. I mean, yeah. Again, it was the on and off, on and off, on and off thing for the last decade or so. But to not even like have a single out or whatever. It is a little concerning of like, okay, are you just in that mode now of we're just kind of hitting the road every once in a while,
right?
Or is there an actual future? What's your 5-year plan, Junior? Yeah,
mainly. I still want my 5-year plan, but anyway.
Oh, jeez. Get in our small boat. Just give up, Eric. Just give up on him. Leave the island. We're trying to bring you back to civilization.
I still got my oars.
Your oars are damaged, Eric. They are nothing but twigs now. All right. Well, we've come to the part of the episode where I like to ask you for your favorites, if you even have any. Who knows? Maybe you don't. But albums, songs, lyrics, riffs, artwork, so on and so forth. What's some of your favorites, Eric?
Let's start with albums, and it's actually pretty close. And death metal is not my preferred metal, generally speaking. But as far as my favorites go, it's a close call between Game of Life and Hits from the Bow.
Okay.
I think today, this very minute, as of this hour, I'm going to go with Game of Life.
Nice.
It's a really close call. That's the one I've been ripping on today. So we'll go with that one.
What a way to end the album too, with that line. You think you know about it? We know about the Game of Life.
That chant. Yeah, that's kind of that hardcore chant I like.
Yes.
I dig it.
Yes, I agree, man. I agree.
Lyrics. I got some lyrics from a zombie song.
All right.
Zombies ate my neighbors. It's interesting reading through a bunch of their lyrics. I read through several. They jump from somewhere between like this stereotypical death metal, deathcore to this weird space that I would almost put lyrically with like the I Am Hollywood album from
yeah, he is legend.
Yeah, golly.
Okay.
But like there's a monster in my room. We discussed movies over coffee. He shook my hand, tried to eat me. I think it's quite absurd. That's almost the level of where we're getting on some of these lyrics. Like this one here goes from being ripped and torn apart. I'll tear your inside out with my decomposing mandibles. And going on from there, just talking about ripping somebody apart with his very own teeth. And I was just sitting there when you burst in. I saw my neighbor peeking on me. I hope he tells somebody, now you. Mutilated me unlikely, though. Didn't see much flow. Yada, yada, yada. But anyway, it goes from this very dark, like, death metal space to this weird, like, I hope my neighbor tells somebody about this. Like, what did...
I hope somebody finds out.
And that's kind of the weird that it just pops back and forth. That's one of the more serious-ish songs, too. But I enjoy it. It's about zombies. I mean, who doesn't love zombies, right?
Who doesn't like zombies?
But they do pop in and out of the weirdness. Some songs absolutely are dead serious. Other songs are definitely not.
Right.
I do enjoy their song names, though. Their song names are fun.
You got a favorite one?
Yeah. They're all so weird. But just weirdness. I mean, you jump into Spanish on a couple of them.
Right.
Talking about Canadian Unigod.
Right.
The world.
So what?
I'm so lost. And I read the lyrics and I was going, I don't know how that deals with it, but cool name, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, I do like weird named stuff like that. So anyway, so how about some songs?
Top three?
I got top 3 for you.
All right, number 3.
I got Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Gosh, what a shock. He just talked
Yeah.
about it. Number
Number
2.
Hawk to a little shine there. Shoe shine for Neptune.
I wish he wouldn't have said that. Oh boy. I'm gonna hawk 2 on that
Cancel
shoe.
day. That's it.
Oh boy.
Boys love it.
No, that's a good one. That is a good one, man. Don't you forget, I killed you with my death that I homebrewed. Nice. All right, number 1.
Robando de las Muertos.
Oh, that's such a great intro, man.
It's a really good intro, and it's a really well-rounded song. Some of the like Shoe Shine's pretty short. This one's a little bit longer for them, it feels like, but it's so well-rounded. You start with the weird,
good.
You mix in that death metal sound, you got a little bit more weird. It's a good song. It's a good sound.
I agree, man. I agree. Alrighty, Eric. That felt good. I don't know if I came over the recording or not, but that felt good. It was a burp. Alrighty. Final thoughts on the band known as Arsonists Get All the Girls.
Well, truly, I say unto thee, Arsonists, get all the girls.
That was beautiful. Brought a tear to my eye. So good. So good. Yeah, the mystery of why women love arsonists. we may never know, man. Scientists are trying to figure it out. They're putting the cancer, cure on hold. They're trying to figure this thing out right now, man. So
cure for the common cold? No.
Nah, forget that.
Arsonists.
Why do arsonists get all the girls? The world may never know. Alrighty.
Yeah. Anyway,
no, did you really? Yeah, give him a try. What's
give
your do you have a what do we always call it? Like an intro album or
entry
whatever.
Point.
Entry point, yeah.
Honestly, you could probably go with somewhere in the middle, like that 3rd or 4th album wise.
Okay.
And see where you want to go from there. Say like about the 3rd album, probably a good spot. If you want to go more chaotic, go backwards. You want to go a little more structured, go forwards. That's kind of a middle ground there. So if you want to just see what they're about, that's that. I know vocalists are different if you go backwards versus going forwards, but generally speaking, that would kind of be my thought process.
I think it would be more accessible.
Yeah.
To the crowd.
Because I know not everybody loves the chaos.
Weirdos.
I've become a little chaos gremlin since starting this podcast a while back.
He's joined the club. I converted
Gone from
yes.
Yeah. Going from
I remember the days
to things. The Chariot.
I was gonna say, I remember the days of when I was like, bro, you've got to listen to the Chariot. No, I will not listen to that.
Absolutely not.
It must be structured. Where's the verse, chorus, verse?
I remember, I can't remember what song it was now off the top of my head, but that song that just starts out screaming and just hollering and just really kind of high-pitched sound. I think it's back to back. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like all the different like layered screams. Yeah.
Yes. And I was like,
I don't like
that.
It. Yeah.
No more.
I think this is messed up. It's okay. Just I worked them slowly over time. Patience is a virtue, is what I'm trying to say. That's okay. That's all right, man. Sometimes it takes people a lifetime. But they will learn to love the Chariot and it's all its chaos. You know why? Because it's avant-garde. All righty, let's get on out of here. It's art. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurviveByPro for news and the latest episode postings, not just on this show, but our other shows as well. We have the History of the Chorus podcast, where me and Josh take a band from the chorus genre and we dissect them. We look at the endless member changes, sometimes ridiculous amounts. Yeah, and then we take a look at their discography, so on and so
You
forth.
tear them apart with your rotting mandibles.
With my rotting mandibles. I'm a zombie. We also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which has covered all 6 seasons of the BBC/Netflix hit show, The Peaky Blinders. We also have the Throne of the Dragon podcast, which has covered season 1, season 2, eventually season 3, and season 4 of HBO's House of the Dragon. And this summer, 2025, we'll be covering season 1 of HBO's A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host at Joshua Lynn Gary. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces, head on over to our YouTube page or on Spotify, either one. Just search Is Survived by Productions, and that'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up the video. Where's it at? There's it. I was waiting for the launch. Alrighty, until the next episode, where, you thought we were getting weird in this episode with Arsonists Girl the Girls. No. We're going a little Nintendo core, a little 8-bit, a little Horse the Band. It's gonna get really weird. We're about to get freaky, man. Alrighty, until then, we'll see you.